would cheer too if you were looking at this. Happy Tuesday, everyone. All right, the European Union sent a letter to Elon Musk warning that interviewing Donald Trump could be, quote, harmful content. Also harmful to Europeans, soap. They're dirty. Dirty Europeans. During his interview with Elon Musk, Donald Trump said President Biden is close to vegetable state. The White House denied this, saying Joe's healthy and still enjoys his favorite foods. A recent op-ed suggests Tim Walz's masculinity is terrifying to Republicans. Well, I wouldn't say Tim Walz's masculinity. A new Washington Post op-ed says Kamala's campaign has better vibes than Trump's, and they praise her for being light on substance, but high on feels. You know who else was high on feels? 4,000-year-old Babylonian tablets have finally been deciphered. It said, for a good time, call Nebuchadnezzar. Dolce & Gabbana is introducing a perfume for dogs. It's called Other Dogs' Butts. Did we really need to make a bottle? A Texas school has banned all black clothing because it's linked to poor mental health, especially for students with dandruff. This with the picture of what... We need to show you what dandruff is. A Spice Girls reunion has been shelved because Ginger Spice and Scary Spice are feuding, but still going strong, Old Spice.
Oh, damn. Wow.
Love a good Madonna joke. Who doesn't? A sick 51-foot whale died about an hour after washing up on a beach. This is devastating news, and our thoughts and prayers go out to its family. And scientists say masturbation can decrease the likelihood of prostate cancer. I'm gonna live forever, said one man. It's our homeless man we let sit in every Tuesday night. Our part for society. All right, Donald Trump just did what Kamala Harris is apparently unwilling or unable to do. He gave an interview. And it was with someone Kamala definitely wouldn't talk to, Elon Musk. The interview took place on X, formerly known as Twitter, formerly known as the place where fans ask for pictures of my feet. After a 30-minute delay, Trump and Musk chewed the fat like lions eating the view. I'm sure Kamala was listening to see which campaign promises she could claim as her own. She's been mimicking Trump so well, she's getting stalked by Stormy Daniels. The two men discussed many issues, including the border crisis. I wonder, are they coming from Africa? Are they coming from Asia? Are they coming from the Middle East? Are they coming from South America? Are they coming from everywhere? And how many of them are really bad ones?
They're coming from Africa. They're coming from Asia. They're coming from the Middle East. They're coming from South America.
Well,
they're coming from everywhere.
Earth,
and there are a lot of really bad ones.
Yep, I knew it. Trump put the blame right where it belongs, on Biden's border czar.
She could close it up right now. She tries to pretend like she's going to do something. She was the border czar, and people can't allow them to get away with their disinformation campaign.
That's the great thing about Kamala's vice presidency. She's done nothing, and she does it better than anybody else. And I include the guy who makes necrophiliacs horny. Trump and Musk also discussed inflation, which is a problem if you've been to a grocery store or a gas station lately, or so I'm told by the orphans who do my shopping.
4 years ago, 5 years ago, people were saving a lot of money. Today, they're using all their money and borrowing money just to live.
Trump blames the cost of oil, a direct result of Biden's disastrous foreign policy. Russia invaded Ukraine, Hamas attacked Israel, and the U.S. left Afghanistan in tatters. I'd say this happened on Joe's watch, but who am I kidding? Joe wasn't watching, he was napping. Iran is even closer to nukes, and Saudi Arabia won't even take Joe's calls, even when he says he's calling to warn them that their car's extended warranty is about to expire. But Trump, he knows Putin. He knows President Xi. He knows Kim Jong-un.
I know Putin. Yeah. I know President Xi. I know Kim Jong-un of North Korea. They're at the top of their game. They're tough. They're smart. They're vicious. And they're going to protect their country. When they see a Kamala or when they see Biden, Sleepy Joe, they can't even believe it.
He also warned Iran not to mess around.
And I don't want to do anything bad to Iran, but they knew not to mess around.
What's Harris going to do? Cackle him to death? Deploy a crack squad of Hollywood D-listers? Have Kathy Griffin parachute in and the mullahs will want to cut their own heads off? So is Kamala a radical left lunatic?
She's a radical left lunatic. And if she's going to be our president, very quickly, you're not going to have a country anymore.
No more country? Isn't that what the radical left wants? But you wouldn't have heard any of this if the media had its way. Time-traveling hacks slammed the chat before it started, even though 3 years of watching Joe Biden crossing over caught them by surprise.
Misinformation on Twitter is not just a campaign issue; it's a America issue. What role does the White House or the president have in sort of stopping that?
Musk's rise as a Trump backer comes as X has turned into a haven for the spread of misinformation. Sometimes the bad information has been boosted by Musk himself.
It's amazing that we live in an era where reporters are asking if we don't have enough censorship. Meanwhile, an EU regulator warned if the chat contained misinformation that they would take legal action, which in itself told us that A, this is why America has a First Amendment, and B, the next time Europe needs us to save them in a world war, they can go themselves. But all in all, we didn't really learn anything about Trump that we didn't know already. The bigger story is that the most important figures in the world agree about the world. 3 if you include me. The greatest tech genius ever and the most consequential political figure today talked on an equal footing. It was like me talking to a mirror. Trump knew everything Musk brought up, energy, AI, economic development, and he didn't cackle like a glue-sniffing hyena once. And 0 questions about ice cream. No other politician could engage on future problems like this. Most would need a staff of 10 doing packets of research for each topic, and they still would have no idea what to think. Trump joked that Biden or Kamala couldn't do this, but the fact is not many people could. By the way, Musk also says he's happy to host Kamala on an X Spaces too. It's an open invitation like the one I have to Kudlow's hot tub. But you think she'd ever sit down with Musk? Nah, she's too busy listening to her favorite up-and-coming rapper. Team Kamala put out a statement about the interview. Quote, Trump's entire campaign is in service of people like Musk and himself, self-obsessed rich guys who will sell out the middle class. Yeah, self-obsessed rich guys. One who's exploring space, mass-produced electric cars, created a device to help paralyzed people communicate using devices that harness brain activity, and many other things to better our world. And the other guy, he could be enjoying his retirement in the billions that he earned building things, but he took a bullet while working a job he agreed to not get paid for. You really got him pegged. Just a bunch of self-obsessed rich guys. Maybe to progressives who think meritocracy is a bad word and achievement is conflated with oppression, self-obsessed my gorgeously sculpted ass. All right, you can applaud. Again, could Harris do any of this, much less discuss it? Here she is explaining artificial intelligence as the AI czar.
I think the first part of this issue that should be articulated is AI is kind of a fancy thing. It's, first of all, it's 2 letters. It means artificial intelligence. But ultimately what it is it's about machine learning.
I'd say Harris could benefit from Musk's neural implants, but you need actual brain activity to get it to work. Let's welcome tonight's guest. He played Granny on the Beverly Hillbillies. Founder of StudioTSD.com, Michael Lofton. She was a woman in men's locker rooms before there were men in women's locker rooms. Former NFL sideline reporter Michelle Tafoya. Her baby has already put itself up for adoption. New York Times bestselling author, Fox News contributor Cat Tube. And when he goes to bars, mechanical bulls ride him. New York Times bestselling author, comedian, and former NWA Jeffy Tars. Loftus, you being homeless, were you able to listen to the podcast or the interview at a nearby underpass?
Yes, we had a shelter, and there was tin cans and wires, and people were sounding out the big words, so we knew what they were talking about. It was wild. That was an event. Hundreds of millions of people now, which that's got legacy media freaking out because that ship has sailed. They are no longer the gatekeepers of what's true and awesome. It's funny. It's shocking that Kamala didn't like this, right? What'd she call it? Like rich white guys?
Yeah, no, rich white guy. I don't know, rich guys.
But if you would have thrown a for Kamala at the end of that, she would have been all for it.
Right.
We had white guys for Kamala. You had comics for Kamala, where I hear Mark Hamill really tore it up. I'm doing new stuff. They had elders for Kamala. Which I didn't tune into elders for Kamala either. That's a long Zoom call right there. Trying to talk Jane Fonda, and I can't see you. Click the button. I don't know. There should be a Vietnamese kid who helps me. But to what you're saying, they did for 2 hours. They went and they talked about actual issues, and it was great. You felt like, okay, these guys could actually get things done and handle stuff. Kamala, she could probably talk for 2 hours. That'd be like 6 sentences, though. You know? That'd be like, space is a long time. And time. All right, moving on. It's horrible. They talked about the assassination attempt for a half an hour,
right?
Which is already double what the FBI and Secret Service have talked about.
That's true. That's true. Michelle, we heard a lot of the same stuff, and we also saw like how hard it is when you're on the phone with Trump. Because it's like you could hear Musk try to get a word in edgewise. But the interesting thing is, everything they talked about was future related, with the exception of the assassination attempt. But they weren't dwelling on past things. They were talking about everything the next week, the next month.
Exactly. I felt like I was a fly on the wall. You know how you always say, I wish I could be a fly on the wall of the room where these two people talk.
There's a lot of flies on his wall.
Yeah, that's probably why he couldn't hear very well. But I felt like I was a fly on the wall in a phone conversation that these guys were having. It was really, really almost casual, but they were just kind of shooting the breeze and figuring stuff out. I loved when Elon said, there should be a committee that goes through and finds out all the waste and fraud and figures out where we can cut. I would be part of that committee.
Do you know what was funny about that? Musk pitched that 3 times, and Trump just kept ignoring it. Trump was like, yeah, and he goes, but there should be a committee. And Trump's, yeah, whatever. The guy's applying for the job.
I know. And then he said, you'd be very good at that. I'd love to have you on. That'd be amazing. Can you imagine Elon Musk in the Trump administration?
I can see that. Kat, did you actually listen to it, or did you just get little snippets? Were you listening for 2?
Yeah, always. No, I watched a lot of it. I think what was more interesting to me was watching the reaction on X itself to it, because I do feel that we are living in 2 separate countries right now, or 2 alternate universes right now. You obviously were a big fan of it. You loved it.
I was a fan, not a big fan.
I would say you were quite a big fan. USA Today called it an unmitigated disaster. And it's just these 2 things can be true. I mean, you didn't say anything negative about it. You didn't really have anything negative to say.
No, I did. Actually thought that the technical issues sucked.
Yeah.
For example, the reason Trump sounding like he was sucking on a lozenge drove me crazy. Yeah. But that's what happens when you're on Spaces, because there's something that happens to the microphone. So like when you listen to somebody, they sound drunk or they're sucking on a lozenge.
The technical issue is definitely he needs to solve, because I think he had that issue with Ron DeSantis as well not too long ago. He needs to figure that out. For me, it was like, I thought, there are things like that, for example, that you could criticize. At the same time, he was talking about real issues that people care about, like inflation. I thought that was great. One person that I don't think can criticize it at all, though, is Kamala.
Yeah.
Because what she was saying with that self-obsessed rich guys thing is she was trying to make the point of like, oh, look at who he's, like he's out of touch with. You cannot present yourself as a woman of the people if you're not talking to any of them.
Mm-hmm.
Trump has, that was a softball interview as well, for sure. Trump has also sat down for interviews that were not that way.
Yes.
And you really can't sit there and criticize who he's talking to or how or why. It comes off a little ridiculous when you have spoken to no one.
Yes, and to your point, it was like in the first 2 minutes, Musk just goes, "Oh, I'm voting for you." So there's no secret that he's biased.
Right.
He's not like saying, "I'm from CNN and I'm objective." He goes, "No, I'm endorsing you. I'm voting for you. I'm raising." He was saying, like, this is it's going to be softball all the way. Softballs. All right, Tyrus.
Again, this was a normal conversation. This interview in any other time would have been behind closed doors. They would have met first, had this conversation, and then they would have came back and we would have had like a 30-minute interview. But in Trump's, I got to give him some credit for this. When you're going to be transparent, you don't know how it's going to go.
Yeah.
But the message is I'm transparent. So considering the fact that they talked for 2 hours and the sound bites aren't as much as I thought they would be, I thought they would cut everything they could for that because they will run that instead of have her do interviews. Right. So my biggest fear is whenever Trump goes on, because I'm voting for Trump, and when he goes on, that he talks too long because all you're doing is giving the other side more reasons to not have Kamala talk. Because they just take when he says she's dumb or not smart, which is a mistake. When he says that, that's the news feed for the whole week.
Yeah.
Instead of talking about the committee, instead of talking about inflation, instead of talking about two guys who know how to make money, two guys who know how to run businesses. One of them is inventing we ain't even heard of yet. He's literally willing to take his extra rocket and get our astronauts out of the sky. So that's a guy I want on my speed dial, 2 o'clock in the morning, like I'm just saying, like.
The idea of like, we used to actually admire people like that.
I know.
Yeah, and that's the problem is that we should be admiring that, regardless of whether he's running for president or not, or who Elon is. The two of them coming together and talking about concrete, tangible things that people can get behind. The problem is, to Kat's point, is one side's like brilliant, the other side like they're ignorant.
Yeah.
So that's the problem. No one learned, but here's the thing about people. There was so many people watching that this might help Trump in the long run because he might get someone to be like, you know what? I never saw him that way.
Yeah.
Because usually his reports start with, well, that's a very unfair question.
Right.
Or how rude of you.
Right.
Yeah. The only thing that does worry me is that quality issue. They made him sound like he was drinking. It was just very irritating. Drove me crazy. All right, up next, see why it's true. Tampon Tim doesn't back the blue.
If you'll be in the New York area and would like tickets to see Gutfeld, go to foxnews.com/Gutfeld and click on the link to join our studio audience.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.